In fact, actually, Brandon, take a look at this. 9 states all reporting new single-day highs in the coronavirus cases. At least 115,000 people have died, and more than 2.1 million cases have been reported in the U.S. since the start of the pandemic. But the White House is dismissing fears that a new wave of coronavirus infections is underway. In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, which I get every day, by the way, and I read this morning and I was shocked, Vice President Mike Pence wrote, "The media has taken to sounding the alarm bells over a second wave of coronavirus infections. Such panic is overblown. Our public health system is far stronger than it was 4 months ago." But there's a nurse in Florida, you always know there's a nurse, who may disagree. This is Erica Crisp. She says she went to a Jacksonville bar with 15 friends. I wish I had 15 friends. When the state reopened, days later, they all tested positive for COVID-19. Jeff, you have an interesting take. Do you think a second wave is overblown?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so at all. But we don't know where it's coming from. If you guys watch the show, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. But look, we don't know if it's coming from restaurants opening it up. Nobody talks about coming from any of the protests, okay? In any sort of way, people are scared to say that. But you have to acknowledge that. All those people getting together are going to spread COVID. So is opening restaurants. Also, testing. People aren't getting this. With hard numbers, if you test, say right now 1 million people are tested, okay, and 500,000 have it, wouldn't those numbers double if you tested another 1 million people? So I'm just a little confused. We're going to talk with Dr. Coley later on in the week about this specific thing. But I just have a different, I guess, philosophy about what's going on. I know the numbers are going to go up. Well,
in terms of the protesters, I did some research because you and I kind of had a disagreement about this. And Fauci does say that being outdoors and in masks, which you do see, is like exponentially safer than being in an enclosed space like a restaurant or a bar. So they say that helps.
I mean, so now you're talking about being inside or on the patio.
Yeah, no, for real. They're saying
listen,
indoors or outside.
I understand your passion for the protests, and I'm not condoning the protest. I'm saying the numbers are spreading because of the protests. You have to acknowledge that. You have to.
But do you acknowledge that, and I'll get Brandon in on this, that if you're indoors at a restaurant and bar, you are more likely to get it than if you're outdoors?
I understand in the indoor-outdoor concept.
I'm very glad. Okay.
I do understand that.
Okay, Brandon, what's your take on this? Do you get indoor and outdoor?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that I'm with Jeff, but when I'm with Jeff, I'm going to attribute the protests on both sides, because remember a couple weeks ago we had the people storm the state capitol in Michigan, and they weren't wearing masks, and they were all up in people's faces. So protests on both sides are dangerous when it comes to spreading this virus. But look, I think of it like this. When we hear them saying that we don't think there's going to be a second wave, to me, that sounds like a couple months back where it was just wash your hands, don't touch your face, everything's going to be all right. So I don't think a lot of people agree or necessarily trust this administration when it comes to what they're saying about how long we can be in quarantine or if we can have another lockdown again. But at the same time, I know people are tired of being stuck in the house, and they would rather follow whatever rule you put forth in place to be able to go outside and enjoy themselves. But everyone has to follow one rule. It can't be different venues with different rules.
People seem to forget that when we had a polio epidemic, we shut down for like years. I know our attention span is short, but and if you listen to the scientists, they're all saying consistently the same thing. Not only is there going to be a second wave, we're not even done with the first wave. So I'm going to stand strong and disagree with this op-ed because I think it's dangerous.
Tori, I'm sorry to jump in. Tori, when we had that polio, that was 19 what? This is 2020. 18. They should be coming out with vaccines faster than what they should have had back then.
They're not magicians. It still takes time, and you've got to allow that to happen. I think it will come, but I think saying we're sick and tired of being bored, buckle down. People had rations in the war longer than this.
But if you're saying buckle down, I want to get off this. If you're saying buckle down, you should say don't go out on the streets with a bunch of people.
I'm still saying to you, and I want you to read the info.
I'm pushing so hard for you just to say, yes, some COVID is going to spread from the protests. That's all I want you to say.
If you're not wearing a mask, absolutely, and you're shouting at a protest, 1,000%. But if you're outdoors and taking precautions, I think you're better off than inside.
But you're condoning people going out, but you're not But you're not. You're saying it's okay for
Again,
the
if you're in a protest and you're wearing a mask, I think
it's okay?
You're outside and it's safer than. I also think they're protesting a public health emergency, and in that case, going to a bar is different than protesting.
I'm taking. I know we got to move on. I understand. Take out what they're protesting for. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to look at the numbers alone. Be a doctor and say, listen, it's coming from.
The doctor themselves says more happen when it's indoors than outdoors.
Again, why do we keep going in circles about this? I'm not talking about indoors, outdoors. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you have to attribute restaurants as a spread of the COVID. You have to attribute protests as a spread of the COVID. You have to attribute people getting together, like Brandon said, because they're sick of staying inside as a spread of the COVID. You have to look at all those.
But there's levels to that, Jeff, right? Like a bar is different than being out on a beach, right? For instance, in a mask. That is different. There's a different percentage of what you're going to get.
But you attribute that to the numbers. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, but I'm just saying there's levels.